Hi, I'm Hillary. Welcome to my channel, Teaching Moments. If you're new to my channel, then let me tell you a little about myself. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 children. So normally we do homeschooling year. The school year is a round year schooling year. And we normally still take about 4 to 8 weeks off in the summer though for summer vacation, depending on what season of life we're in and what we're doing. So we've been off school for several weeks now, and every summer I like to try to work on our skills, like either learn something new or sharpen a skill that maybe we already have, like cooking, or work on exercising, or I like to work on the kids' character traits sometimes, something that maybe they need improvement on. We work on that one a little bit more. This year, I decided to do summer reading. Now, our local library has a summer reading program for the kids, but I checked it out a couple years in a row and I never liked the prizes that they gave the kids. So I decided to do our own summer reading program. I've always wanted to do one, and we have our own home library, which I'm going to show you today. But I have 4 dyslexic kids, and the curriculum I'm using is the Barton Reading and Spelling. And they say they do not want the children to read for pleasure until they get to the middle of level 4. So I wanted to make sure that my kids had a good enough skill level of reading before we did anything like a summer reading program. Well, my second child, my son, he is profoundly dyslexic, and he has had his eye on some of the chapter books we have. And I really wanted him to read one as well. So I figured this would be a really great summer to give him that opportunity to do that. So that's what we decided to do. So I'm going to go through and show you some of the books that we have, give you some ideas of things that you can have your kids read. This is especially going to be helpful if you have a struggling reader or if you have a child who has dyslexia. So let me just show you what we have. First of all, over here, I'm going to start with the younger age group. That would be the beginning readers first. So as you see, we have a bunch of little readers over here. This one here, all these purple and blue ones, these are from the it's called A Reason for Reading. These are A Reason for Reading. Now, I haven't done a review on A Reason for Reading yet, but I have done one on A Reason for Spelling. It's the same company that makes these. This is just the reading curriculum, and the other one was the spelling. So these are pretty good readers, and if you look inside there, this one is the first level, so it's the short little sentences, shorter words, although it may not be in the same order as Barton Reading if you're using that. And then some of the books further down the line are thicker books with more words, smaller print. Okay, so how I pick readers, I was told somewhere that if you look at a page and you count 5 words that your child cannot read on that page, then that book is probably too hard for them. You need to find another book. So when I'm looking for readers for my youngest son, he's going into 4th grade and he is at the end of level 4, then I do that 5-word kind of rule to see if it's a book that he would be able to read. So these are good little readers, but then also this is his side where I put some books that I think that he can read. So let me show you a few things. This first one is Fly Guy. My kids love the Fly Guy series, and if you can see up in the corner in that yellow box, it says what they're working on. I believe this one says the short E. The short E. So my son stopped level 4 right before getting to long vowels, so he still just does the short ones. But look inside here. Those are really great words for him to practice. If he does not know a word, if there's something I haven't trained him how to read yet, I just tell him what it is. Don't even have him go down the path of trying to figure it out if he hasn't been trained how to do it. We don't want him to make pathways in his brain that is wrong. That's the whole idea of doing Barton reading or doing an Orton-Gillingham program, is to kind of retrain their brains to read. So I just give it to him if he doesn't know it, but these books, he knows most of the words. So there's Fly Guy, and then there's also, of course, Dr. Seuss. Now there might be some words in here too. Some of them are easier than others. You just go through and do the little check again. But Dr. Seuss uses a lot of sight words, and that's one thing I really like about it, because I found that my boys especially really need work on their sight words. So I like Dr. Seuss. And then we also have the Biscuit books. Those are fun to read too, fun little readers. And then there's some of, a few others here and there. But that gives you a basic idea of what I'm having my going into 4th grade read. Now I don't, this may not be the level that every 4th grade reader should be at, but he's doing the dyslexia Orton-Gillingham reading system, and so I know he's going to be fine. This is my 4th child I've taken through the Barton reading system, and it really works. It has really helped the other kids. Now my middle two are reading some chapter books. My oldest child is in high school. She's in level 8 of the Barton reading system, and she is a severe dyslexic. However, she is reading pretty well. She feels like it's still hard for her, but when she reads, she is reading well and she is comprehending. So I don't make her read anything else. She works so hard in high school during the school year that I give her a break during the summer and I don't make her read. By the way, at a certain point, like if they're in level 4 in Barton reading, don't make them read. Like, encourage them to read, highly encourage, offer incentives, but do not force your kids to read, because sometimes that can force them to hate to read. And we want to foster a love of reading and a love of learning. If they learn how to read well, they can learn anything. Like, everything's on the internet anymore, right? Like, you can read about anything, so you can learn anything. So if they're learning how to read well, then they're going to be able to learn anything. Some people say, well, you should make them read more, because then they'll be able to read better. That's not, go look up the Barton reading and spelling, and I believe Susan Barton talks about that in there, that's not necessarily the case. They need to be trained how to do it the correct way before they go off reading. But anyway, so this is what I use for my younger ones. Let's go over to the chapter books and I'll show you what I use for the older children. So here are the chapter books that I have in our home library. And my second daughter, she is going into 6th grade, and she is in the middle of level 6 in Barton reading. And I do have 2 children that their grade level and their Barton reading book level is the same, but that's not how Barton works. It just happened to work out that way this time. But she is a really good reader. She's mildly dyslexic. Her dyslexia shows up mostly in her spelling, so she reads really well. So I let her come over to the chapter books and go ahead and pick whatever she wants to read. And then she just kind of gives me like an oral book report when she's done with the book, so that I can know that she comprehended what she read, and that she understands it. So that's how I take care of that one. But then I have my second child, and he is profoundly dyslexic. And so reading has really been a true challenge for him. And it's been slower going, but he has been progressing. I'm so pleased that in the Barton reading system, he's been progressing in both his reading and his spelling. But it's not always been as fast as I wanted it to be. And I just want to say that to give you guys encouragement that it hasn't been real fast. It's kind of been slow, but it's been happening. There's been times I see more growth, and then times that it's harder, and then times I see growth again. So it just takes patience, and it takes time, and it's a process, but they will get it. So he is going into 8th grade, and he has just finished Barton Reading Level 6, and he has never read a chapter book before. He's the one that was pretty excited to read a chapter book. So what I did is I came here and I picked out 5 or 6 books that I thought that he could read and that he would enjoy. And then I laid those out before him, and he picked a book that he wanted to read. So then we try to spend, like Monday through Friday, I try to spend at least 10 minutes. My goal is about 20 minutes a day for him to read. Sometimes he ends up reading longer though, because he's just on a roll, or he really wants to know what's going to happen next, and so he'll continue to read. And if that's the case, I just let him go. But sometimes it's a tougher day, harder for him to focus, and we'll just go the 10 minutes. As far as words with him, again, if he comes across a word that he hasn't been trained how to read, I either just give it to him, or I give him like 1 or 2 seconds to figure it out, to see if maybe he's seen the word before already, and then I'll give it to him. But if he comes across a word that he was trained to read and he is having trouble with it, I will just make him try it again. I'll remind him, okay, where do you split this word at? What vowel are we looking at here? Are there any units? Things like that, to give him hints about what the word should be. So I make him work it out if he's been trained how to do it. So that's how I do that with my profoundly dyslexic child. So let's take a look at the kinds of books that we have here. And there's some that are a little bit better for struggling readers than others. So we have the Little House on the Prairie books, the set, which I looked hard to find, and I finally found them. I was super excited. Then we have some good classics like Charlotte's Web and Little Women. And then we have a bunch of American Girl books. We have some other little girly books, and then we have some animal stories, like about puppies and horses and things like that. Down here on the bottom shelf, the lower shelf, I have stories that are more adventurous, like Three Musketeers, and then some real classics like Black Beauty and Swiss Family Robinson and Moby Dick. And then I have a few books here about sports. And then I have this book of just a few of these. I'd like to get more. And these are the Hank Zipser books. And if you've never heard of them and you have dyslexic children, I would highly suggest that you look into these. These are written by Henry Winkler, and he wrote them with someone, Lynn Oliver Ossel. Henry Winkler, you remember the Fonz? He has dyslexia, and he has written a couple series of books actually, about a boy who has dyslexia and his learning challenges in school, and then his life at home, even how it plays into his very disorganized room and his parents frustrated with him sometimes. It's just kind of a real life situation. My son had even said before, I feel like that, or I know how he feels. And so I think it was just a sigh of relief to have a series of books with a boy who has dyslexia, just like our kids have dyslexia. So this is also, this print that they use in here is said to be a dyslexic friendly print. So it's better on their eyes, or it helps them to, sometimes, I don't know if you realize that sometimes this dyslexic students have a hard time reading like cursive or anything that has a different kind of font in it. It's harder for them to read. So this one is a very clear N and E and R, and it's very clear letters, what they're supposed to be. The font isn't real fancy, so it's good for the dyslexic reader. Anyway, Hank Zipser books. There's another series of this Hank boy. I believe they're called Here's Hank, when he's like a year or two younger, for the younger kids. But these are really good books. I would highly suggest getting these for maybe not just for dyslexic readers, but also just for struggling readers, and maybe they would see that there's other people like them. So there's the Hank books, and then there's some boxcar children books, and then I have a bunch of Abeka readers here. You could see some of these are just short stories, and some of them actually are chapter books. I don't even mind if my kids pick up the books and read some short stories. That is fine with me, as long as they are reading and fostering a love of reading. That is our home library. And also I wanted to mention that with my profoundly dyslexic son, I have noticed how he is becoming a better reader and a stronger reader because he's reading a chapter book that he's interested in, and it's kind of fun for him. But I just would like to encourage all you out there who have struggling readers. It's hard to watch your child struggle in something so foundational as reading, but they can get it. It takes time, but they can get it. Be patient with them. So I just want to encourage you in that. One last little thing I wanted to show is, especially when the kids read just some short stories or when they're reading the little readers that I showed you earlier, I take a card, like a larger index card, and I'm using the idea of like the old school library cards that we used to use, how they would put the date and your initials or whatever. So what I do is I write down the name of the book that they read and the date that they read it. And my idea here, you probably can't see that very well because it's written in orange, but my idea here is that they can, they don't read the same thing like within the 2 months time or something, so that they're getting a variety of things. So I believe that is everything. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe, and also ring the bell to get any notifications for whenever I post a new video. Thank you for watching.